The rain drummed against the window panes like impatient fingers as Anna Smith first crossed the threshold of the Miller family's mansion. She was 26 years old, with wet shoes from a discount store and a single suitcase that held her entire life. She didn't know it yet, but in a few weeks that same suitcase would bear witness to the greatest war she would ever endure. Chapter 1. "Young lady, the floor rag is in the basement," Barbara Miller growled, not looking up from her gold-plated phone. She was 60 years old, with pearls around her neck as thick as cherries and a gaze that could freeze water in August. "And remember, you do not touch the children. You observe from a distance and report everything to me immediately." Anna nodded, though a knot of anxiety tightened in her stomach. She had come here as a housekeeper, but the ad had mentioned specialized child supervision. Now she understood it might involve more than just cleaning. "Where is your husband, ma'am?" she asked timidly. "My son, Mark, is a widower," Barbara replied icily. "His wife died in an accident 2 years ago. He was left with 7-year-old Jacob, but he's a complicated child. Very complicated." At that moment, a scream echoed from upstairs. It wasn't the ordinary cry of a child, but a sound full of desperation and fear, as if someone were fighting an invisible monster. "He's starting again," Barbara muttered, not even flinching. "Third time today. Dr. Peterson says it's normal. Trauma from his mother's death. He says it will pass on its own." Anna felt a pang in her heart. Without a word, she started toward the stairs. "Where are you going?" Barbara shouted after her. "To the child," Anna answered softly, not stopping. "Come back this instant. He can't stand strangers. You'll only make him more agitated." But Anna was already on the second floor. The screaming was coming from a room at the end of the hall. The door was slightly ajar. She peeked inside cautiously. A little boy with dark hair and huge tear-filled eyes sat on the floor. His pupils were dilated, and he was breathing as fast as if he'd just run a marathon. Scattered before him were Lego bricks, all black and grey, without a single colourful piece among them. I can't," he whispered between sobs. "I can't build it. Mom showed me how, but I forgot." Anna felt her heart break in two. She sat down in the doorway, not entering the room. The boy looked up. For a moment they stared at each other in silence. "Hi," she said very quietly. "I'm Anna, and you're Jacob, right?" The boy nodded, but his whole body was trembling. "You know what?" Anna continued, gesturing to the bricks. "Sometimes I forget how to build things too, but then I remember that there's no one right way. You can build it your own way. But Mom said," Jacob began. "Your mom loved you very much, didn't she? And I'm sure she wanted you to be happy. Do you think she'd be upset if you built something a little differently than she showed you?" Jacob thought about it. His sobbing slowly subsided. Maybe not," he whispered. "So maybe we could try together, but we'll each stay on our own side of the room. You can tell me what to do and I'll be your hands. How about that?" For the first time in a long time, a shadow of a smile appeared on the boy's face. For the next half hour, they worked that way. Jacob stayed in his corner, but he directed Anna's every move. They weren't building a castle or a car, but something that looked like a bridge. "Why a bridge?" Anna asked. "Because bridges connect things," Jacob answered. "Mom said bridges help people meet." Just then Barbara entered the room. Her face was red with fury. "What is going on in here?" she yelled. "I told you not to go near him." Jacob immediately curled into a ball and started crying again. Anna stood up calmly. "The child needed help," she said. "This child needs professional therapy, not amateur meddling," Barbara snarled. "Dr. Peterson was clear. No new stimuli, no strangers. You are here to clean, not to play parent." "But he had calmed down," Anna replied softly. "Because you're a novelty. In a week, he'll be screaming again, and you'll have only given him false hope." At that moment, a man's voice came from downstairs. "Mum, what's going on up there?" Mark Miller appeared on the stairs. He was 33, with light hair and the tired eyes of a man who hadn't slept peacefully in a long time. He was dressed in an elegant suit, but his tie was loosened and his hair was disheveled. "Your new housekeeper has decided to play psychologist," Barbara attacked. "She went into Jacob's room without permission, and now the child is all worked up." Mark looked at his son. Jacob had stopped crying, but he was still trembling like a leaf. "Jacob, are you okay?" he asked gently. "Dad, she built a bridge with me," the boy whispered. Mark looked at Anna with surprise. For a moment, she sensed something more than mere curiosity in his gaze. "A bridge," he repeated. "Yeah, so people can meet," Jacob said, pointing to the Lego structure. Barbara rolled her eyes. "Mark, we need to talk. Downstairs. Now." As they descended the stairs, Anna heard snippets of their sharp conversation. "This girl is trouble. Doctor Peterson warned us that we can't allow... But did you see that Jacob stopped crying? It's a fluke. In a month he'll be worse than ever." Anna was left with Jacob. The boy sat by his Lego bridge, touching it gently with his finger. Do you have to go now? He asked quietly. I don't know, Jacob, but if I stay, we can build more bridges. I want you to stay, he whispered. Grandma says everyone leaves, but maybe you're different. Anna felt tears welling up in her eyes. In that moment, she knew that no matter what Barbara Miller said, she couldn't leave this child. I'll try to stay, Jacob. I promise. I'll try. At midnight, when the entire mansion was asleep, Anna sat in the small attic room she had been given. She was writing a letter to her sister. Sophie, I've landed in a strange house. These people are rich, but there's so much sadness in the air it's hard to breathe. There's a little boy here who lost his mum and seems to have gotten lost in his own heart. And then there's his grandmother, who looks like she'd run me over with a tank if she could. I don't know if I can handle this, but I can't leave. This little boy, Jacob, he's like a bird with a broken wing, and no one here knows how to help him. Maybe I don't either, but at least I want to try. A quiet cry came from the other side of the wall. Hannah got up and pressed her ear against it. It was Jacob. Without a second thought, she left her room and went to the boy's door. It was locked from the outside. Who locks a child in? She thought in horror. She sat down on the floor outside his door and began to softly sing a lullaby her grandmother had taught her. It was about a river that flows through the forest, carrying all sorrows away with it. The crying behind the door slowly faded. Anna, a faint voice called. I'm here, Jacob. Can you sing some more? And Anna sang until dawn. Chapter 2. The next morning, Anna woke at sunrise. She had barely opened her eyes when she heard a soft knock at her door. She opened it cautiously. Standing on the threshold was Jacob in his striped pajamas, barefoot with his hair all messy. In his hands he held a single black Lego brick. I couldn't sleep, he whispered. I was thinking about the bridge. Anna knelt to be at his level. What about it, Jacob? That maybe one brick isn't enough for a bridge. Maybe you need more to make it strong. Anna's heart beat faster. This was the first initiative the boy had shown in weeks. You're right, she said softly. Bridges need strong foundations. Do you want to try building a bigger one? Jacob nodded, but then his face grew serious. But Grandma won't let me. She says I'm not allowed in other people's rooms. Then maybe we can build it somewhere else? In your room, but this time I'll come to you if you want. I want to, he said quickly, as if afraid he'd change his mind. They went back upstairs. Jacob's room was large but cold. The walls were painted grey. There were few toys, but there were plenty of educational books and binders with developmental materials. In the corner stood a whiteboard with a daily schedule broken down to the minute. Jacob, where are your colourful toys? Anna asked, looking around. Grandma put them away, he answered quietly. Dr. Peterson said bright colours overstimulate the nervous system. I'm supposed to focus on calm tones. Anna felt anger rising in her chest, but she held her tongue. Instead, she sat on the floor and emptied the box of bricks. You know, Jacob, I think bridges can be all different. Some are grey, but some are the colours of the rainbow. What kind of bridge would you like to build? The boy thought for a long time. Maybe a little grey, but also a little blue, like the sky after it rains. That's a great idea. Do you have any blue bricks? Jacob went to his closet and from the very back pulled out a small box. Inside were a few colourful bricks hidden like treasure. These were my favourites, he whispered, but Grandma said I have to be a big boy and not play with childish things. Jacob, how old are you? 7. Then you are a child, and children have a right to colours and fun. For the first time in what felt like forever, Jacob smiled. For the next hour, they built a grey and blue bridge. Jacob talked about his mum, who loved blue sweaters and would paint his nails blue before every trip to the theatre. Dad doesn't go to the theatre anymore, he said sadly. He says he's too tired. And would you like to go to the theatre? Yeah, but Grandma says it's too loud for my nerves. At that moment, Barbara walked into the room. This time she was dressed in an elegant suit and held a folder of documents. What is the meaning of this? She shouted, seeing the colourful bricks. Who gave you permission to use this junk? Jacob immediately cowered and began to tremble. This isn't junk, Mrs. Miller, Anna said calmly. These are a child's toys. They are stimuli. Dr. Peterson was very clear about what is harmful to Jacob. Barbara strode over and with one swift motion swept the bridge off the floor. In the trash with this! Jacob let out a cry of pain, as if he'd been struck. No! He yelled. My bridge! Mine and Anna's! There is no and Anna's, Barbara snarled. This person is here to clean, period. Just then, Mark entered the room. His hair was a mess, and he looked as if he hadn't slept all night. What's going on? I could hear shouting from across the house. Your son is having another episode because this girl can't stick to her duties. Barbara attacked. Mark looked at his crying son, then at the scattered bricks, and finally at Anna. "Jacob, what happened?" he asked gently. "Dad, we were building a bridge, a beautiful bridge, but Grandma destroyed it," the boy sobbed. "A bridge?" Mark knelt beside his son. "Tell me about this bridge." "It was grey and blue, like the sky after the rain. Mom liked that kind of sky." Mark looked at his mother with reproach. "Mom, why did you destroy his work?" "Because it wasn't his work," Barbara shouted. "It was this girl's manipulation. She's deliberately overstimulating him with colors to make him seem better in her presence. Or maybe she's just helping him express himself," Mark asked quietly. "Mark, we need to talk. In private. Now." Mark sighed and stood up. Before they left, he gave Anna a look that she read as both gratitude and an apology. She was left alone with Jacob. The boy sat huddled in a corner, staring at the scattered bricks. "Anna, is it my fault?" he asked quietly. "Of course not, Jacob. Sometimes grown-ups are sad and don't know how to deal with it, so they yell, but that doesn't mean you did anything wrong. But maybe Grandma is right? Maybe I'm too complicated?" Anna felt her heart ache. She moved closer and sat beside him. "Jacob, listen to me very carefully. You are not complicated. You are a little boy who has been through a great sadness, and it's completely normal that things are hard sometimes. But you know what? The most beautiful things in the world are complicated. Butterflies, flowers, rainbows, all the most wonderful things." Jacob looked up at her. "Our bridge is complicated too, very complicated, and that's why they're so beautiful and strong." From downstairs, the raised voices of a sharp argument drifted up. Anna heard snippets. "Unprofessional approach. Dr. Peterson warned, but you saw how he responds to her. It's a coincidence. In a month, he'll be worse. Maybe we should give her a chance. Mark, that girl is a threat to our family." An hour later, Mark returned to the room. He looked tired and defeated. "Anna, can we talk?" They stepped into the hallway. Mark closed the door behind him and leaned against the wall. "I'm sorry about my mother," he said quietly. Since Joanna's death, she's been very protective of Jacob. Sometimes, maybe too much." "You don't have to apologize, sir," Anna replied. "I understand this is a difficult time for everyone." "You don't understand," he said, shaking his head. "My mother believes you are a threat to Jacob's stability. She wants you to stay away from him." "And what do you believe?" Mark was silent for a long time, staring at the floor. For 2 years, I haven't seen a spark in Jacob's eyes like I saw this morning. When he was talking about your bridge for the first time in months, he sounded like a normal kid. So maybe, but my mother has influence," he interrupted. "She knows the best specialists, she has connections, and I'm just a tired father who doesn't know what he's doing." "You know more than you think," Anna said softly. "You see what brings your son joy. That's a lot." Mark looked up at her. For the first time, she noticed how blue his eyes were, as blue as the bricks Jacob kept hidden in his closet like a treasure. "Why are you doing this?" he asked suddenly. "This isn't part of your job. You could just clean and stay out of our family problems." Anna thought about her answer. "Because I was once a child who needed help too," she said finally. "And someone helped me. Now it's my turn." "Who helped you?" "My grandmother. When my parents died in an accident, I went to live with her. I was 8 years old and didn't speak for 6 months. My grandmother never forced me to talk. She would just sit beside me and tell me stories about dogs that could fly, trees that played music, and rivers that sang lullabies. Until one day I asked her if I could tell a story too. And what did she say? She said she'd been waiting for that moment for 6 months and that she had all the time in the world to listen." Mark smiled for the first time since she'd met him. "Your grandmother sounds like a wise woman. She was the best person I ever knew. She taught me that sometimes people don't need advice or medicine. Sometimes they just need someone to sit with them." "Anna, Mark started, but he was interrupted by the sound of a door opening. Jacob peeked out of his room. He was holding a single blue brick. "Dad, can we try to build a new bridge?" he asked shyly. Mark looked at his son, then at Anna. There was so much emotion in his eyes that Anna felt a strange warmth in her heart. "Of course, son. But this time I'm helping too." And so, for the next 2 hours, the 3 of them built the most beautiful Lego bridge that had ever been created in that house. It was grey, blue, and by the end even a little yellow, because Jacob found a single yellow brick in his collection that reminded him of the sun. Barbara watched them from her room through a cracked door. Her face was like stone. At midnight, she called Dr. Peterson. "Doctor, we have a problem." Chapter 3. Dr. Peterson arrived at dawn the next day. He was a tall, thin man in frameless glasses, carrying a briefcase full of forms, and wearing the expression of someone who knew everything about children, but had never hugged one. Anna was cleaning the living room when she overheard their conversation on the porch. "Doctor, the situation is deteriorating," Barbara said in a theatrical whisper. This housekeeper is manipulating Jacob. She's using colors, toys, building these structures with him. The child is becoming more and more agitated. That is concerning, the doctor murmured, scribbling in his notebook. I warned against introducing new stimuli. Where is your son now? Mark is away on business in New York City. He'll be gone for a week. It's the perfect opportunity to restore Jacob's stable routine. Anna felt a cold chill. Barbara had deliberately chosen a time when Mark was away. Please bring the boy down, the doctor instructed. I need to examine him. Anna ran upstairs to warn Jacob, but it was too late. Barbara was already leading him down, holding his hand tightly. The boy looked terrified. Good morning, Jacob, the doctor said in a cool tone. I hear you've been behaving inappropriately lately. Jacob hid behind his grandmother's leg, which was ironic since she was the source of his fear. I don't like doctors, he whispered. That is a classic sign of regression, Peterson announced, making a note in his file. A return to childhood fears. Very troubling. But he's always been afraid of strange doctors, Anna interjected, unable to stop herself. The doctor looked down his nose at her. And who might you be? The housekeeper, Barbara snapped before Anna could answer. And she has no business interfering in medical matters. Of course, the doctor agreed. Please leave us alone with the patient. Anna left, but stood just outside the door. She heard snippets of the conversation. Jacob, will you show me your toys? I don't want to. I see some colored bricks here. Who gave them to you? I already had them. But who allowed you to play with them? That woman who cleans here. She's nice. Jacob, sometimes adults pretend to be nice to confuse you. That isn't good for your health. After half an hour, the doctor emerged with a grave expression. Mrs. Miller, my fears are confirmed. The boy is showing signs of emotional instability. He talks about bridges, colors, and uses fanciful language. This is a classic example of manipulation by an unqualified individual. Barbara nodded with a satisfied look. What do you propose? First and foremost, the elimination of the source of destabilization. This housekeeper must have no contact with the child. Additionally, I will prescribe a mild sedative for him at night and recommend behavioral therapy with my wife, Dr. Peterson. And what about the boy's father? Mr. Miller is too emotionally involved, the doctor declared. In cases of childhood trauma, the parent is often unable to think rationally. It's a good thing he has you for support. Anna felt her stomach clench. It was a trap, carefully planned and perfectly executed. After the doctor left, Barbara summoned her to the living room. Listen to me very carefully, she said in an icy tone. From this moment on, you are forbidden from going near Jacob's room. You will not speak to him, look at him, or answer his questions. If you break these rules, you will be fired immediately, and I will make sure you never find work in this town again. But the child needs stability, not amateur experiments, Barbara interrupted. Dr. Peterson is one of the top specialists in the country. He has experience, education, and a reputation. And what do you have? Sympathy? That's not enough. Anna remained silent, but inside she was seething with rage. Do we understand each other? Barbara asked. We do, Anna replied quietly. But when Barbara left, Anna sat down on the sofa, and for the first time in years she cried. The next 3 days were a nightmare. Jacob, not understanding why Anna was suddenly ignoring him, fell into an even deeper depression. He screamed at night, refused to eat, and stopped leaving his room. Barbara documented every episode on her phone with grim satisfaction. You see, she said to the camera, these are the effects of an unprofessional approach. The child is now suffering from withdrawal. On the third evening, Anna couldn't take it anymore. She sat on the floor outside Jacob's door and began to sing softly, the same lullaby about the river that carries sorrows away. After a moment, the crying behind the door stopped. Anna? A faint voice called. I'm here, Jacob. Why don't you talk to me anymore? Did I do something wrong? Anna's heart shattered. No, sweetie, you've never done anything wrong. It's me, I have to be quieter now. But I need you. And I need you too, Jacob, very much. Then why do we have to be apart? Anna didn't know what to say. How could she explain to a 7-year-old that adults sometimes play cruel games where children are the pawns? Sometimes grown-ups have complicated rules, she said finally, but that doesn't mean I've stopped caring about you. Can you stay by the door? So I know you're close. I'll stay, Jacob. I'll be here every night right outside your door. And so she did. Every evening after Barbara went to bed, Anna sat outside Jacob's door and sang. They didn't talk much, but they both knew they were together. On the 4th day, Mark returned. Anna heard his car pull up at 8 in the evening. He burst into the house like a storm. Where's Jacob? He yelled. I called 3 times and no one answered. Jacob is sleeping. Barbara said calmly. He's had a sedative from Dr. Peterson. A sedative? He's 7 years old, and he has serious emotional disturbances. The doctor explained everything. Mark ran upstairs. Anna could hear him trying to wake his son, but the boy was semi-conscious from the medication. "What did you give him?" Mark shouted, racing back down the stairs. "Just a mild sedative," Barbara replied. "Dr. Peterson said it was necessary after the destabilization caused by your housekeeper." "What destabilization?" Barbara played a recording on her phone. Jacob's screams from the past few days sounded even worse on the recording. "You hear that? Those are the results of her therapy," she said with satisfaction. Mark looked at Anna. There was so much pain in his eyes. It was almost shameful, but there was also a question. "Is this true?" he asked quietly. Anna opened her mouth to answer, but Barbara cut her off. "Of course it's true. Dr. Peterson documented everything. This girl used manipulative techniques, colorful stimuli, fanciful stories, physical contact without consent. Jacob was addicted to her like a drug addict. But he was happy," Mark said weakly. "It was an artificial euphoria," Barbara snarled. "Like a high. Look what happened when the contact was cut off." Mark looked at Anna again. This time there was doubt in his eyes. "Anna, is it true? Did you manipulate my son?" Anna felt as if she'd been punched in the stomach. For the first time, Mark was looking at her with suspicion instead of gratitude. "No," she whispered. I just talked to him." "Talked to him?" Barbara scoffed. "She used techniques of influence, colors, touch, manipulative stories." "They weren't manipulations," Anna said, her voice growing louder. They were conversations. Normal conversations with a child." "Normal?" Barbara took out her phone and played another recording. Listen to her reading to him. The sound of Anna singing the lullaby filled the air, but the recording was edited. Only her voice could be heard, without context, without Jacob's responses. It sounded unsettling. "Do you hear?" Barbara asked triumphantly. "She comes at night, sings intimate songs to him, builds an unhealthy attachment." Mark was growing paler by the second. "Anna, is it true you went to him at night?" "Not to him," Anna said desperately. "I sat outside his door when he was crying, so he wouldn't be alone." "You see?" Barbara smiled like a cat that had caught a mouse. "She admits it. Nighttime visits, emotional manipulation, creating dependency." "It wasn't manipulation," Anna cried. "It was compassion." "Dr. Peterson says otherwise," Barbara said coolly. "He says it's a classic case of an unqualified person exploiting a child's emotional needs for her own purposes." "What purposes?" Anna was on the verge of hysteria. "Financial, perhaps," Barbara suggested with false concern. "After all, you've only worked here a week and you're already trying to dictate how we raise our child." Mark was silent, looking from his mother to Anna. At that moment, a faint voice came from upstairs. "Dad?" Jacob was standing at the top of the stairs in his pajamas, his hair disheveled and his eyes wide. The sedatives were wearing off. "Son!" Mark ran up the stairs to him. "Dad, why is everyone yelling?" Jacob asked. "We're not yelling, sweetie. We're just talking." Jacob looked at Anna. His gaze was full of confusion and pain. "Anna, why don't you talk to me anymore? Am I bad?" Barbara quickly moved to the bottom of the stairs. "Jacob, dear, this woman won't be working here anymore. Dr. Peterson said it would be better for your health." "No!" Jacob cried. "I don't want her to go. Anna is good. She sings to me when I'm sad." "But that only makes you sadder," Barbara said in a falsely gentle tone. "See how you're shouting? It's because of her." Jacob looked at Anna with desperation. "Is that true?" he asked. "Am I sad because of you?" Anna felt her world collapse. In this child's eyes, there was now doubt instead of trust. "No, Jacob," she said softly. "I never wanted you to be sad." "But you are," Barbara interjected. "And you'll be even sadder if she stays." Mark stood halfway up the stairs, holding his son's hand and looking at Anna with a mixture of pain and suspicion. Maybe my mother is right," he said finally. "Maybe it really would be better if you—" He didn't finish, but everyone understood. Anna nodded. She knew she had lost. Barbara had played her game perfectly. "I understand," she whispered. She went upstairs to pack her things. As she packed, she heard Jacob crying and Barbara's calm voice. "It's all right, Jacob. That bad woman won't bother you anymore. Dr. Peterson will come tomorrow and give you new medicine that will help you forget all your worries." Anna closed her suitcase and walked out of the house without saying goodbye to anyone. But in her pocket, she had a small blue Lego brick that Jacob had given her on their first day together, and she knew this wasn't over. Chapter 4. Anna rented a small apartment in a downtown tenement, in a neighborhood where the windows rattled from passing streetcars and the walls were paper thin. She had enough savings for 3 months' rent and one resolution torn from her heart. She would not leave Jacob alone with Barbara Miller. During the first week after she left, she went to the mansion every day. She stood behind the trees and watched the windows. She only saw Jacob once. He was standing at his bedroom window, pale as a ghost, staring into the distance. When he spotted her, Barbara quickly drew the curtains. The second week, she began her investigation. She went to the local library and spent entire days there, reading about Dr. Peterson's methods. What she found sent shivers down her spine. Dr. Peterson and his wife ran a private clinic specializing in the emotional stabilization of upper-class children. Their method involved isolating the child from all external stimuli, administering sedatives, and reprogramming behavioral patterns. There was only one patient review online, anonymous but devastating. For a year, I wasn't allowed to talk about my mum. When I cried, the doctor gave me a shot. When I laughed, he said it was emotional instability. When we went home, I no longer remembered what sadness felt like, but I also didn't remember what joy felt like. Anna printed the article and put it in a folder she was starting to build. In the third week, she found Rose. Rose Carter was a nurse at the Children's Health Center. She had come to the same library to borrow books on childhood trauma therapy. "Excuse me," Anna said, noticing the book titles. "Do you work with children?" Rose was a woman in her 50s, with grey hair pinned in a bun and eyes full of warmth. "I do. Are you interested in the subject? I used to work with a little boy." Anna hesitated, but his family decided I was harming him, not helping. Rose put her book down and looked at Anna more closely. "Tell me about this child." They sat in a small cafe near the library. Anna told her the whole story, about Jacob, Barbara, and Dr. Peterson. Rose listened in silence, occasionally furrowing her brow. "Dr. Peterson," she murmured at the end. "I've heard of him. In our circles, he's known to be controversial." "How so?" "His methods are very radical. A lot of pharmacology, very little talk therapy. Some colleagues say he's more concerned with pacifying the parents than healing the children." Anna felt a flicker of hope. Could you check on his clinic for me?" Rose thought for a long time. "I shouldn't do this," she said finally, "but if a child is truly in danger." In the fourth week, Rose called Anna. "We need to meet, immediately." They met in a park by a fountain. Rose looked agitated. "I checked on Dr. Peterson," she said without preamble. 3 years ago, he had a case before the medical board. The parents of one of his patients accused him of disproportionate use of pharmacotherapy on a child. The case was dismissed, but the nurse's notes remained in the file. The child was given sedatives every single day for 8 months. By the end of the therapy, he was so listless that his parents took him to another specialist. What happened to that child? He needed 2 years of rehabilitation to return to normal functioning. Anna felt her stomach clench. "Rose, can this be stopped? It's difficult. Peterson has an impeccable reputation, an influential wife, high society patients, good connections. No one wants to cross him. What if we find evidence?" "What kind of evidence?" "Everything he's doing is legal. He has the family's consent. He's operating within his specialty. But Jacob is getting worse, not better. That's your word against his expert opinion." Anna was close to tears. "So there's no way?" Rose was silent for a long time, watching the fountain. "There is one way," she said at last. "But it's risky." "What is it?" "If we could document that the child's condition is deteriorating despite the therapy. If someone took videos, pictures, recorded conversation, but I don't have access to the house." "That's true, but maybe someone else does." Anna thought about it. "Who in that house could possibly help her?" "There is one person," she said slowly. "Mrs. Davis, the housekeeper, Judy. She's worked there for 10 years. She was always kind to Jacob. Can she be trusted?" "I don't know, but it might be worth a try." In the 5th week, Anna waited outside for Judy Davis. The housekeeper left work every day at 6 in the evening. "Mrs. Davis!" Anna called out. Judy looked at her, surprised. She was a woman in her 60s, short, with grey hair tied back in a knot. "Anna, what are you doing here?" "I need to talk to you. About Jacob." Judy looked around nervously. "I shouldn't. Please, just 5 minutes." They went to a nearby coffee shop. Judy nervously twisted a napkin in her hands. "Do you know what's happening to him?" Anna asked. Judy sighed heavily. "It's bad. Very bad. He doesn't eat, he doesn't sleep, he cries all night. That doctor keeps giving him more and more medicine, but the child only gets worse. And Mr. Miller? Mr. Miller doesn't see a thing. He's always at work, and when he comes home, Jacob is asleep from the medication. Mrs. Miller tells him the child is getting better, but it's not true. Mrs. Davis, could you record what's happening in that house?" Judy stared at her as if she were crazy. "Record with what and why?" with your phone to prove that Jacob needs help, not more drugs. Honey, I work there. If Mrs. Miller finds out, you'll find a new job. But if we do nothing, Jacob could end up like that other little boy from Peterson's clinic. What little boy? Anna told her about the case from 3 years ago. Judy grew paler with every word. My God, is that possible? Very possible. Mrs. Davis, imagine Jacob is your grandson. What would you do? Judy was silent for a long time, staring out the window. My grandson is 7, she said finally. If someone were doing to him what they're doing to Jacob, then what? Then I'd protect him, no matter what. In the 7th week, Judy began her mission. Every day she discreetly recorded snippets of conversations, Jacob's behavior, the doctor's visits. The recordings were horrifying. In the first video, Jacob was sitting in the corner of his room, rhythmically banging his head against the wall while Barbara talked on the phone. Yes, doctor. Everything is going according to plan. The child is calm. No more crying spells. The medication is working perfectly. In the second recording, Dr. Peterson was talking to Barbara. We'll increase the dosage. The child is still showing resistance to the therapy. But is that safe? Mrs. Miller, I have 30 years of experience. This boy needs stability, not sentiment. In the third video, Jacob was trying to eat dinner. His hands were shaking so badly he couldn't hold his spoon. Barbara was yelling, "Stop pretending, eat normally." "I can't, Grandma, my hands are shaking. It's because of those bricks you built with that girl. Dr. Peterson says it's withdrawal." In the 7th week, the breaking point came. Judy called Anna at midnight, crying, "You have to come right now." What happened? Jacob has stopped talking, completely. He hasn't said a word in 3 days. Anna ran to the mansion. Judy let her in through the back entrance. The house was cold and silent. They went upstairs to Jacob's room. The boy was sitting on his bed, staring into space. He didn't react to their presence. His eyes were glassy, his face expressionless. "Jacob," Anna whispered. "Nothing. Jacob, it's me." "Anna." The boy didn't even flinch. "What are they giving him?" Anna asked, feeling a wave of terror. "I don't know," Judy wept. "Dr. Peterson was here yesterday. He said it was a transitional phase, that he'd be better in a week." Anna knelt by the bed and gently took Jacob's hand. It was as cold as ice. "Jacob, if you can hear me, squeeze my hand." "Nothing." "Jacob, do you remember our bridge? The blue and grey one?" For a fleeting moment, it seemed a flicker of recognition crossed the boy's eyes, but it vanished as quickly as it appeared. "Mrs. Davis," Anna said, standing up, "we have to act, now. What can we do? Do you have all the recordings?" "Yes, that's enough. Tomorrow we're going to the Children's Health Center. Rose knows someone who can help." "What about Mr. Miller?" Anna looked at Jacob, this small, transparent boy who once built colorful bridges, and laughed at her stories. "Mr. Miller will have to decide," she said. "Either he stands by his son or we lose him forever." At that moment, footsteps sounded from the hallway. Judy went pale. "It's Mrs. Miller. Quick, the service stairs." But it was too late. The door opened, and Barbara entered in her bathrobe. "What is going on in here?" she shrieked, seeing Anna. Anna stood up, and for the first time in her life, looked Barbara straight in the eye without fear. "What's going on is that you are killing this child," she said calmly. Barbara's mouth fell open in astonishment. "How dare you! Get out of my house this instant, or I'm calling the police." "Go ahead and call," Anna replied. "And then you can explain to the officers why a 7-year-old looks like a zombie." Barbara glanced at Jacob, and for a split second, uncertainty flickered in her eyes. He's going through a difficult phase. Dr. Peterson is destroying his brain with drugs," Anna shouted. "And you know it. You've known it all along." "That's a lie." "I have recordings," Judy said quietly. Barbara spun around to face her like a cat ready to pounce. You were recording me." "I was recording what you were doing to this child," Judy answered with dignity, "and I'm going to give them to the right people." Barbara was as white as a sheet. This is a conspiracy," she whispered. "A conspiracy against my family." "This isn't a conspiracy," Anna said. "This is a rescue." Just then, a noise came from downstairs. Someone was opening the front door. "Mom!" Mark's voice called out. "Why are the lights on? Did something happen?" Barbara looked at Anna with pure hatred. "I won't let you take him," she hissed. "He is my grandson, my family, and I will not let some girl from the sticks destroy what I've spent my whole life building." "But you've already destroyed it," Anna said sadly, looking at the motionless Jacob. "And now it's time to fix it." Chapter 5. Mark bounded up the stairs, taking them 3 at a time. The worst-case scenarios flashed through his mind. He had left his son for 4 days to close an important deal in San Francisco. "Mom, what's going on? Why are all the lights—" He stopped short, seeing Anna in his son's room. "What are you doing here?" "Sir?" Judy stepped out from a corner. Mr. Miller, you need to sit down. Why do I need to sit down? What happened to Jacob? Mark rushed to the bed and only then saw the state his son was in. Jacob sat motionless, his eyes wide open but vacant. He wasn't blinking. His breathing was shallow and he didn't react to his father's voice. Jacob. Mark gently tapped his cheek. Son, Dad's home. Nothing. It was as if the child were behind thick glass. What's wrong with him? Mark yelled, turning to his mother. What have you been doing to him for the past 4 days? Dr. Peterson increased the dosage, Barbara said, trying to remain calm. He said it was a normal part of the therapy. In a few days, what dosage? What therapy? Mark was growing paler. He looks like a child who has overdosed, Anna finished quietly. Mark looked at her, then at his mother. Will someone please explain to me what is happening here? Mr. Miller, Judy stepped forward, holding her phone in trembling hands. You need to see this. Judy, don't you dare, Barbara snarled. Mrs. Miller, that's enough, the housekeeper replied with dignity. I won't allow this any longer. She played the first recording. The sound filled the room. Yes, doctor, everything is going according to plan. The child is calm. No more crying spells. Mark listened, his face turning to stone. In the recording, Barbara was lying on the phone while Jacob's quiet sobs could be heard in the background. That's your voice, Mom, he whispered. Mark, it's not what it sounds like. Be quiet, he said sharply. Play the next one, Judy. The next recording. Dr. Peterson talking about increasing the dosage. The third. Barbara yelling at Jacob, who couldn't eat because his hands were shaking. Oh my God, Mark whispered. My God, what have I done? Mr. Miller, Anna said softly. This isn't your fault. It's not, he yelled, whirling to face her. Then whose is it? I left my own son with... He couldn't finish. He sat on the bed next to Jacob and pulled him onto his lap. The child was as light as a feather, limp. Jacob, please, he whispered. Please say something, anything. Silence fell in the room. Only the clock on the wall ticked away the seconds as each person present wrestled with their own thoughts. How much of this medication are you giving him? Mark asked, his eyes fixed on his son. Dr. Peterson knows what he's doing, Barbara answered, but her voice was laced with uncertainty. How much, Mom? 2 pills in the morning, 1 at noon, 3 in the evening. 6 pills a day, he's 7 years old. They're sedatives, not antibiotics. Sedatives can be more dangerous than antibiotics, Anna cried out, especially in children. Mark looked at her with gratitude. How do you know? I looked it up. Dr. Peterson had a similar case 3 years ago. The child ended up in the hospital. You're lying. Barbara was on the verge of hysteria. Those are slanderous accusations. Mrs. Miller, an unfamiliar voice called from downstairs. Could you please come down? Everyone froze. Who could that be at this hour? Barbara ran down the stairs. A moment later she returned, white as a sheet. Mark, there are people from the Children's Health Center downstairs. Anna's heart pounded. Rose had kept her word. What center? Mark asked. I called a nurse I know, Anna said. I showed her pictures of Jacob. She said it might be a medical case requiring immediate intervention. Without my consent? Barbara shrieked. The child is in danger, Anna replied calmly. Anyone has the right to report a situation like this. Mark stood up, holding his son. I'm going downstairs, he said. Let the specialists take a look at him. I won't allow it. Barbara blocked his path. He is my grandson, my family. I will not let some strangers... Mark, a voice called from downstairs. And can we have a word? It was the voice of a confident woman. Mark pushed past his mother and carried Jacob down the stairs. 3 people were standing in the living room. Rose, whom Anna recognized, an elegant woman in glasses, and a younger man with a briefcase. Mr. Mark Miller, the woman in glasses asked. I'm Dr. Catherine Novak from the Children's Health Center. This is Dr. Paul Kowalski, a child psychiatrist. We received a report concerning a possible case of inappropriate pharmacotherapy in a child. Inappropriate, Mark repeated. May we examine the boy? Dr. Novak asked. Mark sat down on the sofa with Jacob. Dr. Kowalski knelt before them. Hi there, young man, he said warmly. I'm Dr. Paul. Can you look at me? Jacob didn't respond. The doctor gently lifted his eyelid, shone a small flashlight in his eyes, and checked his pulse. How long has he been unresponsive to stimuli? He asked. For 3 days, Judy answered. What medications is he on? Mark looked questioningly at his mother. Barbara stood in the corner of the living room, her arms crossed. Mom, what medications? Valium, Zoloft, hydroxyzine, she mumbled. Dr. Kowalski raised his eyebrows. In what doses? I don't remember exactly. 6 pills a day, Anna said. The doctor looked at her, then at Jacob. 6 pills of those substances in a 7-year-old is a dose that can lead to serious neurological damage. he said calmly. Who prescribed them? Dr. Peterson, Barbara answered. I know him, Dr. Kowalski muttered. Do you have his documentation? What documentation? The medical history, test results, justification for such pharmacotherapy. No, I don't know if we have. Dr. Novak and Dr. Kowalski exchanged glances. Mr. Miller, Dr. Novak said. I'm afraid your son requires immediate hospitalization for detoxification. Detoxification, Mark repeated. In these doses, these drugs act like a poison on a developing child's brain. Jacob needs medically supervised detox. But Dr. Peterson said, Dr. Peterson committed malpractice, a very serious case of it. Barbara shot out from the corner like a fury. That's a lie. Dr. Peterson is one of the best specialists in the country. Perhaps he was once, Dr. Kowalski replied calmly. But his methods are outdated and dangerous. In modern child psychiatry, we do not use such aggressive pharmacotherapy without serious medical justification. And where is the justification in Jacob's case? Dr. Novak asked. Jacob was traumatized after his mother's death. Trauma is not an indication for such massive pharmacotherapy. It's an indication for psychotherapy, support, and sometimes a short course of mild sedatives, not for chemically incapacitating a child. Mark listened to all of this, his mouth agape. Are you saying that for the past few weeks you've been poisoning my son? Not intentionally, Dr. Kowalski said, but the effect is similar. Your son needs help, immediately. At that moment, someone else entered the living room, an older man in an elegant coat. Dr. Peterson, Barbara exclaimed with relief. Doctor, please explain to these people that we are doing everything according to your recommendations. Doctor, Peterson surveyed the room, noticing his colleagues. Catherine, Paul, he greeted them coolly. What brings you here? A pharmacology case, Dr. Novak replied. A 7-year-old who has overdosed on a cocktail of psychotropic drugs. Dr. Peterson glanced at Jacob. He is my patient. He is under my care. He was, Dr. Kowalski corrected him. From now on, he is under our care. You have no right. We have a duty, Dr. Novak cut him off. According to the Child Health Protection Act, this boy requires immediate hospitalization. Hospitalization? Barbara cried. He is my grandson. I won't let you take him. Mrs. Miller, Dr. Novak turned to her. Do you understand that your grandson could suffer permanent neurological damage if we don't begin detoxification within the next few hours? Barbara was silent, looking from the doctors to her grandson. But he was getting better. He doesn't cry anymore. He doesn't scream. Because he doesn't have the strength to cry or scream, Dr. Kowalski said quietly. His nervous system has been chemically suppressed. That isn't improvement. It's destruction. Mark stood up, holding his son. We're taking him, he said decisively. Now! Mark! Barbara shouted. You can't! Dr. Peterson, please say something. Dr. Peterson was silent, looking at his colleagues. He knew he had lost. Dr. Peterson, Dr. Novak said, you will have to explain to the ethics committee why you prescribed such a cocktail of drugs to a 7-year-old without proper medical justification. It was a long-term therapy, he stammered. Based on what? Where are the studies? Where is the psychiatric diagnosis? Where is the parent's consent for this kind of pharmacotherapy? Dr. Peterson was silent. They don't exist, Anna said, because this wasn't therapy. This was silencing a child so his grandmother could have some peace and quiet. Barbara looked at her with hatred. This is all your fault. If you hadn't come here, if you hadn't destabilized the child, I destabilized him. Anna no longer tried to be polite. I talked with him, sang to him, played with him. You were the one poisoning him. You witch, Barbara screamed. All of you against me, against our family. Mom, Mark turned to her, his son in his arms. Not against the family. For the family, for Jacob. Jacob doesn't know what's good for him. He's a child. That's exactly why adults are supposed to protect him, not destroy him. Mark walked to the door. Doctor, he said to Dr. Kowalski, where do I take my son? The Children's Hospital detox unit will be waiting for you. As he was leaving, Barbara grabbed his arm. Mark, I'm begging you. He's my only grandson. Don't take him from me. Mark looked at her for a long moment. Mom, you had a grandson, but you chose to destroy him. I wanted what was best. No, you wanted control. And there's a fundamental difference. And he walked out of the house, carrying his limp son in his arms. Anna remained in the living room for a moment. Dr. Peterson was packing his things, avoiding his colleagues' gazes. Barbara stood in the corner, weeping. Anna, Dr. Novak said, could you come with us? The child will need a familiar face when he wakes up. Anna nodded. From the first day she had crossed the threshold of this mansion, she knew it would mean a fight, but she never expected it would be a fight for a child's life. As she was leaving, she heard Barbara's sob behind her. What have I done? God, what have I done? For the first time, there was truth in her voice. Chapter 6. The children's hospital at 3 in the morning looked like a ghost town, white corridors, flickering fluorescent lights, and a silence broken only by the distant cry of a baby. Jacob lay in the detox ward hooked up to an IV. For the first 2 days, he didn't open his eyes. Mark never left his bedside, holding the small hand in his own. Talk to him, a nurse advised. They can hear us, even when they're asleep. What should I say? Mark asked helplessly. That I'm sorry I was the worst father in the world? Maybe start by telling him you love him, suggested Anna, who was dozing in a nearby armchair. On the 3rd day, Jacob moved his fingers. On the 4th, he opened his eyes. They were clear but empty, as if he were looking through a fog. Jacob, Mark whispered. Son, can you hear me? The boy moved his lips, but made no sound. That's normal, said Dr. Kowalski during his rounds. The body needs time to rebuild its natural neurological connections. The important thing is that he's responding to stimuli. How long will it take? It's hard to say. Every child reacts differently, but you have an advantage. What's that? You have Anna. Indeed, Jacob responded most vividly to Anna. When she sat by his bed and began to softly sing the lullaby about the river, his eyes would follow her movements. When she talked about colors, the blue sky, the yellow sun, the green forest, his face would brighten almost imperceptibly. On the 5th day, he said his first word, water. It was quiet, hoarse, but it was a word. Mark cried for 10 minutes. On the 6th day, Jacob asked, Where are my bricks? Mark brought the entire box of colorful Legos, but Jacob was still too weak to build. He just sat and touched them gently, as if to make sure they were real. Can I build a bridge? He asked. Of course, Anna replied, sitting by his bed. What kind do you want to build? One like before, yellow and blue, for Daddy. On the 7th day, Barbara came. She stood in the doorway of the room and looked at her grandson for a long time. She had bags under her eyes, her hair was uncombed, and she looked like someone who hadn't slept in a week. Can I come in? She asked quietly. Mark looked at his son. Jacob was watching his grandmother with apprehension. Jacob, do you want Grandma to come closer? He asked. The boy thought for a long time. Is she not going to yell anymore? Barbara's heart broke. She knelt by her grandson's bed. I won't yell, Jacob, I promise I will never yell again. And will you let me build colorful things? I will. All the colors you want. And you won't say I'm bad? Barbara hugged her grandson very gently. You were never bad, Jacob. I was the one who was bad, but I'm going to try to be better. It wasn't a complete transformation. Barbara was still a domineering woman with a difficult personality, but for the first time in her life she had admitted she was wrong. And that was a beginning. On the 8th day, Jacob smiled at Anna for the first time. Will you come live with me? He asked. Anna looked at Mark. For the past week, they had spent every moment together at Jacob's bedside. They had talked not only about his son, but also about themselves. Mark spoke of his late wife, of the job that had become an escape from his grief. Anna talked about her grandmother, her dreams of finishing her education degree and helping children. I don't know, Jacob, she answered honestly. That's up to your dad. Dad? Jacob looked at his father with wide eyes. Mark took a deep breath. Anna, he said quietly, would you consider staying for good? Not just for Jacob, for all of us. As a housekeeper? As part of the family. Something unspoken hung in the air, but they all felt it. A love that was blooming slowly, not a fiery passion, but a warm, steady affection built on mutual respect and care for a child. I'd like that, Anna replied. I'd like that very much. 3 months later, Jacob returned home, but it was a completely different home from the one he had left. They redecorated the boys' room together, Mark, Anna, and Barbara. They painted the walls a light blue. They bought new toys, colorful books, crayons, and modeling clay. In the center of the room stood a large table for building with bricks. Peterson's license was suspended for a year, and he was required to undergo retraining in modern methods of child therapy. His wife closed their clinic. Barbara moved into a small apartment near the mansion. She comes over every day, but only for an hour, so as not to overwhelm her grandson. She is learning patience, how to listen, how to ask before acting. It's difficult for someone who has controlled others her whole life, but the sight of Jacob in the hospital had shattered her. For the first time, something was more important than her ego. Mark changed his work schedule. He gave up long business trips and hired a partner to take over some of his responsibilities. He comes home for dinner every day and helps Jacob with his homework. They are learning to be a father and son together. Anna enrolled in evening classes to get her degree in education. Mark pays for it, insisting it's an investment in all of their futures. Anna doesn't protest. She knows it's not charity but a sign of respect for her aspirations. And Jacob? Jacob is slowly going back to being a kid. He speaks fluently now, he laughs, and sometimes he even gets angry and cries. But these are the normal emotions of a 7-year-old, not the panic induced by medication. He sees a therapist once a week, but it's a good therapist who allows him to express his emotions instead of suppressing them. A year later, on the anniversary of Anna's first day at the mansion, they are all building the biggest Lego bridge ever constructed in that house. It's large, colorful, with space for cars, trains, and even little figurines of people. This isn't just any bridge, Jacob explains, placing a yellow brick. It's a family bridge. What does family mean? Mark asks. It means it connects people who love each other, even when they sometimes argue. And do we argue? Sometimes Grandma raises her voice at Anna, and sometimes Anna says Dad works too much, and sometimes Dad gets mad when I don't clean up my toys. And what happens then? Then we build a new part of the bridge, Jacob answers seriously, to make room for everyone. That evening, after Jacob is asleep, Anna and Mark are sitting in the garden. They aren't married yet. It's too soon. They both know that building real love takes time, but they are a family. She's no longer a housekeeper, but a partner in raising Jacob, a student, a woman whose opinion matters in every decision concerning the house. Sometimes I think about that first day, Mark says, when you walked into Jacob's room while he was screaming. I think about it too. What did you feel then? That I couldn't leave, that this child needed someone to just sit with him, the way my grandmother once sat with me. And now? Anna thinks for a long time. Now I feel that we all needed someone to sit with us. You after losing your wife, Barbara after losing control of her life, Jacob after losing his mum, and me after losing hope that I could make a difference. And did you? Look at Jacob. Yesterday he built a castle, today a bridge, and tomorrow he'll probably invent something new, something colorful, loud and full of life. I think that's the best answer. A light comes on in an upstairs window. It's Jacob, going to the bathroom. But this time he doesn't cry, he doesn't scream, he doesn't wake the whole house. He just takes care of his business and goes back to bed. This isn't a fairy tale, Anna says. There will still be hard days. Barbara will sometimes revert to her old habits. You'll sometimes be stressed from work. I'll sometimes not know how to help Jacob. And Jacob will sometimes be afraid that he'll be left alone again. But we'll be together, and that makes all the difference. Mark takes her hand. Thank you, he says quietly. For what? For not leaving, for fighting for us, even when we didn't know we needed someone to fight. And thank you for finally listening to me, and for choosing your son. They sit in silence, holding hands, listening to the sounds of the night garden. From the house come other sounds, the steady breathing of a sleeping child, the ticking of a clock, the hum of the refrigerator, the sounds of an ordinary, normal house, where an ordinary, normal family lives. And sometimes in moments like these, ordinary is the most beautiful miracle in the world. 3 years later, Jacob is starting first grade. He is a curious, sociable child who builds colorful bridges in every sandbox and tells his friends stories about rivers that sing lullabies. He still has bad days sometimes, when he's overtired, stressed, or when something reminds him of his mom. But on those days, he doesn't get a sedative. He gets a hug, a conversation, time to feel his emotions. And he always has someone who will sit with him until the storm passes. Because that's what children need. Not control, not silencing, not fixing. They need someone to sit with them and be a witness to their world. Someone who will let them build colorful bridges, even when the adults think they know better. Someone who understands that love isn't about predicting a child's every move, but about accompanying them as they discover their own path. And that is what made Jacob, Anna, Mark, and even Barbara a family. Not a perfect one, not a problem-free one, but a real one. A family that builds bridges instead of walls. Dear listeners, we hope the story of Jacob, Anna, and Mark has touched your hearts. If you want to continue experiencing stories like this about the power of love, patience, and faith in a second chance, please subscribe to our channel, leave a like, and share in the comments which part moved you the most. Every day we tell stories of human courage, of how one person can change the life of an entire family, and how even in the darkest moments, there is always hope. Sometimes, all it takes is for someone to sit beside us and witness our pain. Sometimes, that's enough to start all over again. We're waiting to hear from you. Let us know, do you believe in a second chance for people like Barbara? Or perhaps you have your own stories about someone who sat with you in a difficult time. Share them in the comments.